Hello, and welcome to this manufacturing management webinar in association with Enel X. My name is Paul Fanning, and I'm editor of Manufacturing Management. The presentation today is entitled Flexing Your Manufacturing Muscle, Ways to Reduce the Cost of Powering Your Business while Supporting a Greener Electricity Grid. And here to present today are Wayne Davis, Head of Flexibility UK and Ireland for Enel X, and Stephanie Gawagis, BD Energy Flexibility UK. I'll hand over to them shortly, but just before I do, I should say that if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the box on the right-hand side of the screen, and we'll endeavour to answer them at the end. If we don't have time for your question, please rest assured that it will be handed on to Enel X and they will answer it for you offline. And with that, it just remains for me to hand over to Wayne and Stephanie.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning to everyone joining our webinar today. Today, Wayne and I will go through how manufacturers can benefit from participating in energy flexibility programs. Most importantly, we will look at what are flexibility programs and how do they work, why is energy flexibility important, who can participate and how to apply, what are the incentives, and of course, a live Q&A with you, the audience. Shall we begin? So, just in case the Enel Group is new to you, we are a global energy company with a rich history spanning over 60 years. We operate in more than 30 countries, generating, distributing, and selling energy to millions of customers. Enel X is the innovative division of the Enel Group. We provide energy solutions for businesses that optimize how and when energy is consumed. Specifically, in GB and Ireland, our core offering is built around maximizing the commercial and environmental rewards available from the Energy Flexibility Programme participation. We enable commercial and industrial scale energy users to extract value from the energy markets by helping them to leverage their flexible energy assets in ways that support a greener, more stable and resilient electricity grid. So, why is the discussion of energy flexibility so important? In order to understand this, we must set the stage. The energy landscape is changing in unprecedented ways. Change is only accelerating, and it's not the fittest that will survive. It's the most responsive and the companies that are best positioned to adapt to change that will succeed. And this is why we believe the future of energy management is so pertinent. We believe that in the face of disruption within the energy landscape, traditional silos of supply, demand, and sustainability must converge. The entire enterprise must align actions and investments under a single holistic strategy to achieve long-term goals. With this, the energy landscape in Europe and the UK is undergoing significant transformations driven by several key factors. Specifically, energy efficiency measures and grid modernization initiatives are being pursued to optimize energy consumption and improve infrastructure. This is where we will focus on further in this webinar. The energy trilemma. What does this mean for you and companies in the UK and Ireland? How are you specifically preparing to ensure secure and affordable energy moving forward? The energy trilemma revolves around the challenge of achieving three key objectives in the energy sector: security, affordability, and environmental sustainability. Energy security entails ensuring a reliable and uninterrupted supply of energy to meet the demands of society. This involves diversifying energy sources, enhancing infrastructure resilience, and managing geopolitical risks to minimize disruptions. Affordability refers to providing energy at reasonable costs to individuals and businesses, ensuring that energy services are accessible and do not place an undue burden on consumers. This can be achieved through efficient energy production, distribution, and pricing mechanisms. Lastly, environmental sustainability focuses on reducing the negative impact of energy production and consumption on the environment, but this includes transitioning to cleaner, renewable energy sources, minimizing greenhouse gas emissions, and mitigating pollution and ecological risks. The most important here is balancing these three dimensions. It's crucial for a sustainable energy future. It requires implementing policies and practices that enhance energy security, promote affordability, and prioritize the use of green and renewable energy sources. This often involves making strategic investments, adopting innovative technologies, and fostering collaboration between governments, industries, and communities to address the energy trilemma effectively.
Thanks for that, Steph. Our commitment to transitioning to a clean energy needs to be matched by an equal commitment to do so in a safe and reliable way. This calls for greater flexibility on the grid to accommodate fluctuations and new renewable energy generation. We're already potentially seeing this in real terms. Just 2 weeks ago, the last coal-fired power station was closed for good. That was over in Ratcliffe. That was a big point in our landscape, seeing that disappear. But on Monday, we had very, very little wind in the UK. I'm not sure many people on this call actually know, but at one point on Monday afternoon, the forecast of supply against demand in GB had a deficit of 367 megawatts. And Grid was saying there was a 67% chance of loss of power on that day. We were lucky. The system was balanced and extra energy was purchased. But the capacity market gives people a warning that this may happen. But also by reducing loads, people can ensure that lights don't go out for good. But it's not all bad news. Surely we can all agree by reducing reliance on high emission fossil fuels is a good thing. And as we retire these last fossil fuel power stations, the amount of electricity from renewable sources is definitely increasing. So we start to look at this in real numbers. Back at the beginning of the century, the amount of renewables on the grid was less than 3%. And let's be brutally honest, at that time, the growth we've seen was not expected. That figure is now more than 40% in 2023. And for the first 2 quarters of 2024, that has gone above 50% for the first time. This simply wouldn't be possible without energy flexibility programs such as the capacity market and contract differences. But as well as these small adjustments that businesses make on how and when they consume their energy, this has a big impact on what happens with the grid. By participating in energy flexibility programs, your business helps defend the UK's energy security, decarbonises our electricity system, thus ensuring the lights stay on in homes and businesses across the country. I'm now going to talk a little bit about what we actually mean by energy flexibility. So, got a few things on the screen there. Demand response, DSR, flexibility. These are just a few terms referring to the assets on your site that can help to balance the demand on the power grid. By customers curtailing or shifting their loads to different times of the day when electricity is more plentiful or demand is lower through different monetary incentives. It all comes down to one thing really though. The basic proposition is if there's an opportunity to create revenue streams for your business by utilising those assets and the infrastructure you already have, and this may mean no capex investment at all, then the revenue streams can be quite significant. It could equate to 3, 5, even 10% reduction in your energy costs. Now, I think we all agree that's quite compelling for most organisations in today's market. And especially where we're being squeezed by high utility costs, there is definitely a drive to be more efficient. But then there's the details. How do we do it? How does this impact our operations? Can we implement the controls? Do I need to get my engineering team to make this a reality? What both myself and Steph will try and do later is answer some of those questions. But what we've heard through chatting to customers and feedback and experience and previous webinars that we've held as well is that it's a lot easier to deliver these benefits than a lot of clients first thought. So let's talk a little bit more about how demand response works and what it looks like for most manufacturing sites.
Thank you, Wayne. So I think it's important to look at who could participate and what manufacturing processes are well suited. So as you can see here, certain manufacturing processes are well suited for participation, given their ability to manage energy consumption, provide demand side response, and adjust electricity use during peak periods. The industries that can benefit the most are those with the flexible energy demand, the ability to temporarily reduce electricity usage without impacting production significantly, or the ability to switch to backup generation during periods of high grid demand. These industries and processes are well suited to the capacity market because they can provide grid stability while maintaining production efficiency. Through demand side response, load shifting, and backup generation, manufacturers can reduce their energy costs and earn revenue by participating in the UK's capacity market. So, a question for you, Wayne. Out of these here, what is the best suited manufacturing process for the capacity market?
How long's a piece of string, Steph? It's about you've got a number up on the screen at the moment. I won't take you through them all, but let's just grab a few real examples from our current customer portfolio, really. So I'm seeing, just looking what's up there at the moment. Let's just take a couple. Cement manufacturing. You've got kilns and grinding mills. They can be very flexible. They can turn off. We work with a numerous amount of customers in that space at the moment who have very energy intensive grinding. They can shift that energy to different periods or actually cut it completely to go into these schemes, and even some of the faster running schemes that Enel X are able to offer as well. So that's definitely one area. Another one you've got up on screen is paper and pulp mills as well. So again, you can modulate the energy use, stopping or slowing down the pulping or paper making machinery there. Again, very energy intensive, the mechanical pulping. The drying, it definitely is very energy intensive by slowing down that or turning that off. Again, that can be very good as well. The last one I'll pick is food processing there. Let's have a look at food processing. Food and beverage processing, a lot of refrigeration and freezing there. So by turning off or turning down some of that refrigeration for a short period of time, we may only be talking half an hour, there's normally enough inertia in the systems there for you to be able to accommodate those particular losses there in the energy. So, there's lots to do. I could speak for hours on this stuff, but I don't want to bore everyone. So I'll pass it back over to you.
Perfect. I mean, it's great. And I think we all know the sectors are varied. It could be in textiles and chemical manufacturing. So thank you, Wayne, for picking a few there. I want to also look at, and some of you may be wondering, what type of equipment is needed to participate. So obviously Wayne's touched on a few there, but some might also be thinking, is there a qualification process? Well, quite simply, anyone can participate in the capacity market from any branch of the manufacturing industry. Here, we have grouped a few examples of participation. So from on-site generation, such as CHPs and battery storage plants, to HVAC systems, coolers, etc. Most importantly, though, we are here to navigate this with you and support. Let's use a pharmaceutical company as another example. How would it work? We would, one, of course, work with the client, understand and look at their processes. Let's say an overview of their manufacturing process would be manufacturing vital drugs within the UK. So they would look at drug discovery to drug development, and then it would go into drug production. We would understand what is their typical curtailment methods on these sites and how can we incorporate their current processes. Normally, we would do that with speaking with obviously on-site operation directors, looking at the half-hourly data. In pharmaceutical companies, we understand that most pharmaceutical plants have backup generators to protect against interruptions during production. So therefore, we could transfer loads to backup generators, even to details of how they dim their lights, turn down their chillers, adjust HVAC set points. These actions can provide additional curtailment to support the grid. And we, of course, can ensure that they support grid stability. So decarbonisation through curtailment is this example. Operational reliability, no interruptions during their research or manufacturing stages. And of course, financial incentive. So participating in capacity market serves as an additional revenue opportunity for these clients. How does it work? So energy flexibility looks slightly different for every business. So the first step is to work with your business to devise a plan that allows you to reduce your energy use without impacting your operations. Once enrolled, if a stress event occurs where national grids see that electrical demand is at risk of exceeding available supply, you will be notified a number of hours before, specifically 4 hours before an event, that you will need to respond at a certain time. You will then implement the energy reduction plan devised for you and subsequently receive payment, usually on a quarterly basis. But there are wider benefits to participating in flexibility programs. I'll hand over to Wayne. You're on mute there, Wayne.
Thanks for that, Steph. So let's look at this in real money terms. So let's just take the capacity market as a program. It's one Steph's mentioned a little bit, and brutally honest, it's probably one of the easiest to do. To date, we've never physically been called into a capacity market event, and there are just a small number of tests needed each year to be able to qualify for that. So we see that as one of the easiest ones to actually do. I've done two different scenarios on screen here, scenario A and B. we take the first one as scenario A. That's looking at a single manufacturing site that could curtail a load of, say, 7 megawatts, or maybe a CHP that's providing 7 megawatts of power to your site. That would look over a 5-year period of giving you about £1.5 million in revenues there. So it's quite a sizable sum. I think everyone would agree. But, it's not always possible. Not everyone on this call, not all sites have got a 7 megawatt flexible load. It's never that easy, or you may not have a CHP that's large enough there. But aggregation can happen as well. So if you've got numerous smaller sites, we can actually look at turning these into really a virtual power plant and looking at curtailing that load all at the same time. So in scenario B, I've taken sort of 10 smaller sites here with a flexible load maybe of between 1 and 4 megawatts each, and they can all reduce by a small amount themselves, giving us a combined load of over 10 sites of maybe reducing by 400 kilowatts each. By putting that together, all 10 sites, so all of a sudden we've got 4 megawatts. And that 4 megawatts over a 5-year plan would give you around £800,000 in revenues there.
That's great. Thank you, Wayne. We always like to hear about revenues, I think. In terms of the role Enel X can play in these systems, we like to be the thought of us as a conductor of an orchestra. We manage a portfolio of companies and assets together as a group to benefit from the energy flexibility programs, as well as benefit of reducing or eliminating risks around non-performance or underperformance. Aggregation also allows smaller companies to share the benefits and enter energy flexibilities where their load alone may be too small to enter individually. So a little bit about what Wayne said before, aggregation. So it could be maybe smaller sites, but we can obviously look at it as one whole. There are multiple value streams available, each with different rules and criteria for participation. Successful route to market optimization requires an experienced partner who identifies the right value streams for your business, how to participate, when to participate, and often, very importantly, when not to participate. Our role is to remove the complexity from that decision making and to ensure that your energy assets are in the right market at the right time, so that revenue and savings are maximized with the minimum disruption to business operations. By removing this complexity, we pave the way for you to deploy the most impactful distributed energy solutions possible.
Thanks for that, Steph. This, I think you'll all be glad to hear, is our last slide here. But I want to really go back to the energy trilemma that Steph presented earlier. And let's be brutally honest, it's not an easy equation to balance, but it's one I think that all businesses face. But through an integrated approach, companies can start to adopt solutions that can mitigate these risks, create visibility, and generate more revenues for them as well, ultimately increasing your competitive advantage. So really, let's not see this as a challenge. I think we should start looking at this as more of an opportunity there as well. So let's, energy flexibility programs such as the capacity market that we've mentioned a couple of times today, companies can start to tick all 3 sides of that trilemma. Sustainability, allowing more distributed renewable energy sources to be integrated into your network and starting to reduce the need for those peaking power plants that are out there. And let's go back to those. A peaking power plant may be used for less than 1% of the year, but it costs our transmission network about 10% of all transmission charges. So that's huge. Energy security, ensuring sustainability on the electricity network, reducing the risk of power outages. As I go back to Monday, Monday afternoon, we have 67% chance of the grid going down. So, resilience is definitely key. Energy security is key there. But then the last piece there is affordability, giving you the opportunity to generate new revenues for your business. If you've got that 7 megawatt CHP I mentioned in a couple of slides ago, that could pay you £1.5 million over 5 years. What could your business do with £1.5 million? What other energy resilient schemes could you introduce with that £1.5 million? So that's the key piece I wanted to really finish with there. Steph, I don't know if you've got anything else to add there. If not, we can just head straight over to
Q&A
session.
Thanks very much, guys. Yes, we do have some questions for you here. Question from Wayne here. I have reduced my load for DFS for the last couple of years. Can I do the capacity market?
Good question, Paul. Historically, no. So DSF, isn't just a sofa shop. So DFS is demand flexibility service. This is something that the National Grid, or NESO as they now are, brought in a couple of years ago. A lot of people at home may have actually come across this themselves. A lot of domestic suppliers are getting you to reduce loads a little bit, and you can always save a few pound here and there. There has been something in place that allows commercial customers to do this, and they were paying quite well as a testing regime, but it couldn't be done alongside the capacity market. But DFS itself, and I hate to say it, may not even continue. It's being looked at a lot at the moment. The testing of it will definitely be reduced, so the money will be reduced. But the one thing that NESO have actually said is that they will be allowing, Ofgem alongside them, they will allow you to stack that with the capacity market. So the revenues from the capacity market can still be earned. So, it's a definite plus if it continues. If it doesn't, you've still got a capacity market there as well.
Okay. One for Stephanie here. My CHP is always on. Why are you going to pay me?
Great question. I think if your CHP is always on, the way the grid and the way we look at it for the capacity market is you're not then using electricity off the grid. So therefore, you're supporting the grid by keeping your CHP on and not using that same capacity off the grid. So in an unlikely event of a stress event, if you keep your CHP on, you are unlikely to use, let's say, 7 megawatts if your CHP is 7 megawatts off the grid.
Okay. There's one here. Does this sort of initiative work in Northern Ireland too, or is it just for mainland UK?
I can jump in there if you want me to, Steph. So this particular scheme, no, the capacity market is just GB. So if we take Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, as far as energy goes there, it is one energy scheme there. So there's still separate operators, but there's a lot more interaction there. There are different programs and schemes very similar to this in Northern Ireland, and it's definitely something that Enel X can help you with.
Thank you. Another one again for Wayne. We need a minimum of 2 hours to start to run down our process. So would this be too long to participate?
In the capacity market, no. To be very honest, we give you a minimum of 4 hours notice. And if we're doing a test, we can work with you to make sure that test is done with enough notice as possible. But as long as you can reduce with 4 hours notice, no issue at all. Now, if some of the customers out there or potential manufacturing clients out there can actually reduce a lot quicker than that, then there are other programs out there that can react quicker and, of course, get paid additional revenues for those as well.
Okay. Another one here. From a practical point of view, what does a demand response event look like? How do you know what to do, when to do it, and who actually does it?
So, on that one there, the key thing is we want to make this as easy as possible for the end user. So, we try and take a lot of the complexity away. So we have teams, our operational teams, our notification teams there, we've got 24-hour teams. We work with customers to make sure there's an energy reduction plan in place. The last thing we want to do is put a customer in who's unable to perform if there was an actual event. So we'll work very closely with the client to understand what they can reduce, when they can reduce it, and help them put processes in place. So when they need to do this, if they're called, they can do and follow a checklist to make sure that's done.
Okay. Another one here. Is load reduction a manual process controlled by on-site operations teams, or can it be automated?
It's a bit of both. We work with some customers who, rightly or wrongly, they definitely don't want anyone to control their site. They have 24-hour teams there, and therefore they're more than happy to manually turn that off as well. However, automation is very simple. For some of the faster frequency schemes that we do that need responses in maybe less than 30 seconds or even less than 1 second, all of that is fully automated. But we can do that for the capacity market as well.
Okay. Do you, if you have a BESS system, BESS system, can you feed into the network during an event and gain extra revenue?
So if you can feed into the network, so if you've got an export and you can be exporting in there, definitely there's definitely there. There's more than one revenue stream available. So I term this internally as the full stack. We start to stack these programs on top of each other and look to make the best revenue there is for a client. But if you've got an export there, then of course we can. It's not just what you're using on site. If you can export to the grid, that is of course helping them as well with that deficit that they may have.
Okay. Another one here. What is the minimum volume needed to participate? I have a number of small sites, hundreds, based nationwide, that could potentially make up an X megawatts that can be turned off for a short while.
I could probably say that one, Wayne.
Yeah.
So in terms of minimum, if we aggregate, and you've mentioned there, obviously you've got multiple sites, hundreds even. If we aggregate that, if that overall load comes to a minimum of a megawatt that we can turn down, then that could be participation. So usually we'd like a megawatt of turn down, but obviously if we're aggregating, we'd like a minimum of a megawatt.
Okay.
But on that as well, if you've got, if you're slightly under a megawatt, if you're a single site that's maybe you can do a curtailment maybe of 5, 6, 7, 800 kilowatts. Of course, I mentioned the virtual power plant earlier. We can look to take that on board and put that into a virtual power plant. But if going back to the question that was asked just then, yeah, Steph's perfectly right. We have looked to work with the likes of supermarkets, for example, and looking at aggregating, small 60, 70, 80 kilowatt loads en masse to do that. Looking at electric vehicle charging, for example, and how that can be integrated as well into something like the capacity market.
Okay, and probably last one here. Do you need any special hardware or software to participate in flexibility programs? And what costs might be?
Depending on the scheme, potentially, but generally no. So if you were just curtailing a load, we just use your normal half-hourly meter that you'll have on site, your revenue meter there, and everything's done on that. If it's a CHP, then we would need to fit a little bit of equipment to be able to do that, just so we can record the data in the same way as, grid actually needed. So we have certain rules that we need to follow. However, there would be no out-of-pocket expense to the client on that one there, and we would make sure all of that's done. So they're not having to pay for that up front themselves. We can definitely help with that side of things. Some of the other schemes that we offer, potentially certain meters may need to be fitted, but again, a customer would never be left out of it.
Okay, we have got one last one in here. What's the minimum and maximum length of a period?
So how long is a piece of string here as well, I would actually say. So there's never actually been a capacity market event in the UK. So we don't, a capacity market event would actually be as long as it takes. So, I say personally between 30 minutes and 2 hours would be the maximum we would do. It could be ongoing. If it was called for more than 2, this is my personal view. If it was called for more than 2 hours, I think we've got bigger things to worry about. The lights will start to be going out. So generally not. There is strict testing that we need to do a minimum of 3 times a year, and that is for 30-minute blocks. So we just need to do 30-minute blocks as far as the testing is actually considered on that piece there.
Okay, and what is the time commitment to participate? Do you have to sign up for 12, 24, 36 months for any particular scheme?
So the scheme runs on an annual basis. Just referring to the capacity market here, the scheme runs on an annual basis. So we can look at putting you in for multiple years. We have prices at the moment, and the best prices on the market as such. We've been fortunate to bid into certain markets, and we have secured prices currently up to 27, 28, and that will go on to 28, 29 when the next auction in the capacity market happens early next year. So we can actually go into long-term contracts with clients as well.
Okay, that's absolutely fantastic. That's all we have time for, I'm afraid. But obviously, if viewers have any questions for Wayne and Stephanie, their details are on the screen there. With that, it really just remains for me to say thank you to Wayne and Stephanie for their presentation today. And thank you all for joining us. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks all.
Thank you, everyone.